Now we have a couple of iterations here, and you can imagine we might make a whole lot more iterations, some of them starting from scratch even. These are just kind of derivatives, but we could make lots of very different designs all based on this one master model. And then from there, we might want to display those all at once. So let's look at a quick way of doing that in a really clean looking way. So let's go to our top plane here in the assembly. I'm actually in the assembly on the top plane, creating a sketch there at the assembly level. And in that sketch, I'm just going to use the point tool, just this one right here, to create a single sketch point right at the origin of my sketch. So it's hard to see it there, but there's actually now a little black X, a little point right there at the origin. Now we're going to pattern that using a linear sketch pattern. Now if you've watched my other tutorials in the past, you'll know that I say that we do not use the linear sketch pattern. Well, that's true. In parts we don't. In assemblies, this is just a quick it's a quick quick fix, okay? Let's select this object and then click on linear sketch pattern, and from there I'm going to set my X spacing to say 120 millimeters, and I want, let's say, 4 of them, and it's going to create these points out here. And then on the Y-axis, I will do the same thing. Let's set this up to 4 of these guys, and then also set that to say 120 millimeters. That'll give me a grid of points. I don't need 4 of them. Let's do 3 of them. There we go. Hit OK. And you can imagine that these might represent the centers of lots of different design alternatives, all laid out in a nice, clean, even grid. We'll exit the sketch, and this will just be useful for us when just dimensioning things, just putting things where we want them. So let's show this iteration 1 here in our assembly. And when we did that, we actually created a mate, locking it down here in the corner. Let's change that. Let's delete that coincident mate that we created and go back to our mate tool. And this time I'm going to mate the origin of that with one of these other points. And hit OK. That should be fine. OK, so let's exit out of there. Also, we want to show this other iteration that we created. And let's grab the mate that's holding it in place and delete that as well. And then create a new mate for it. And this time we'll mate that origin with, let's say, this point right here. And hit OK. Close that up. And close that up. So now we have these 2 iterations next to each other. We can see them. We can look at them in a meeting and kind of rotate them around and be like, well, do you like the scallop or do you like it without the scallop, and blah, 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 and have lots of big, heady conversations about design and, you know, the nature of design and all that kind of stuff. And you could imagine having 9 other of these things out here to look at. And furthermore, as our envelope changes, let's say that engineering is still working, by the way, and they've decided that no, we actually still didn't make it quite big enough. It needs to be a little bit bigger. Well, let's go to our ID master model here, and let's find the bottom surface. I'm going to grab that the sketch that creates, let's see, the sketch that creates the dimensions there. Let's edit that dimension. Instead of 14, let's get it up to 15. We need it a little bit bigger, and exit that sketch. And now we're editing in context, and it's going to take a minute. Now, it's taking a minute to update everything because it's not just rebuilding the ID master model. No, it's actually going through and rebuilding all 3 of these, because if you'll recall, each of these design iterations references that original master model, and you can see that because we built this in an intelligent way, these have updated too. So even though we needed to make a global design change to all of our iterations, we were able to do that just by changing this one master model. And you can see just how powerful this would become, especially if we had 10 other designs out here at the same time to choose from. All right, so let's say that this sprint is done, and let's move on to the next one.